Gamer coming at you with a PC build today. This is an exciting day because it's like Christmas for the gaming geek, but I just wanted to run you through some of my excitement and show you what I'm doing. Currently I have an Asus ROG G20CB computer, and if you know that model, it is a very it's a slim form factor PC, and I decided to upgrade, and I'm going to put some really good parts in this, starting off with a 1000-watt power supply, which I already put into this Thermaltake Versa H18 TG case. The TG is, of course, tempered glass, so you'll be able to see some of the cool lighting and stuff that we put in here. Also is a Strix, Republic of Gamers Strix. I believe it's the Z360G motherboard. It is a mini ATX board, so it is actually for a smaller case like the Versa is, and this is because it has to fit in my desk and I need the clearance. So I didn't feel I needed all the extra bells and whistles of the full ATX version, but this will do just fine. It has some pretty good reviews. I hope I'm not telling you the wrong case. Let me go over here. I can actually look at the box so I don't lie to you. It's the Asus, Z370G gaming. It's the Wi-Fi board. Also some cool supplies that will be going in, some cool components. The Kraken X62 liquid cooler for my 8700 Intel processor. Also using some TridentZ RGB RAM, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, and of course the Feast et les Resistance. It is the GeForce GTX 1080 Ti. It is the For the Win version 3, FTW3 hybrid. So this is a water-cooled GPU as well. So with that, we'll have 2 radiators installed in this unit, as well as an M.2 hard drive, as well as a couple solid-state drives, as well as some hybrid Seagate drives, so stay tuned. Taking a look at the Versa H18 TG case, it's a pretty good case. It's pretty cheap. It's only about 50 bucks, and for 50 bucks you get a pretty decent build quality. Steel construction, nice little effect here is addition is the magnetic dust cover to the top. This is the top of the unit. I have it laying on its side. This is the top. I believe this is a 120 millimeter case. It also 120 millimeter fan slot. This also has an area for another 120 millimeter fan slot. This will be the GPU fan slot, I believe, when everything is all said and done. And of course, the front of the case has room for actually 3 120 millimeter fans or 2 140 millimeter fans, and the Kraken X62 has two 140 millimeter fans, and we'll put some lighted fans on them to make it even a little bit fancier. As you can see with the board, it's flipped upside down. I'll turn it around for you. There you go. This is a micro ITX and mini ITX and a micro ATX case. As you know, mini ITX is the smallest of the 8. Well, it's actually not an ATX, it's an ITX, and as far as the ATX is concerned, you have the micro ATX as well. And this, you have to add another 2 rivets here on the 2 slots. There's actually room for a third, I believe, over here, depending on where your motherboard manufacturer puts the mounting holes in the board. But I just added these 2 in here now to take the Asus Republic of Gamers board. Front panel has been disconnected so that I can have better access to when I install the radiator and fans for the CPU water cooler. And of course, it comes with your pretty typical standard pins. It has the power switch pin, which is out of focus, so I apologize. I'm doing this with one hand. Also the reset switch, the LED, which is there's a big blue, there's a long blue light that goes down the front of the case, which will light up, and it connects to a Molex connector. Also, this is the hard drive LED, and there is, of course, slots for the USB on the board, 2 USB slots and one, those are 2.0, and this is a USB 3.0. Looking at the front of the case, nice look. You have some see-through material, so you'll be able to get the colored fans in there. And of course, as we talked about, you have your power button up here. You have your hard disk drive LED right here, hard to see. You have USB 3.0, USB 2s, and your sound jacks if you have pins on your motherboard to connect onboard microphone and audio, as well as the reset button and the button that powers the LED. And the LED actually comes down this shiny piece right here. So that's basically the front of the case. Of course, it is a Thermaltake case. I'm a fan of Thermaltake. I've liked them. Some of their cases have been known at times to be a little bit flimsy. I don't see this here, so I'm pretty happy. There's no rough edges. The finish is pretty nice. It's kind of it's not glossy, it's not matte. I guess it's a matte case, it's a matte finish. And of course, these are the thumb screws. Of course, I just have the tempered glass off so I can work on it for now. On the back, of course, I've already put in the power supply, which is the Corsair HX1000 power supply. I like to use modular power supplies because I hate having to find places for the wires that you don't actually use. So this way, I don't know if you can see in here, you have basically all your different inputs. This also does Corsair Link, where you can monitor some of the statistics of your power supply through software if you plug that into a USB slot on your board. So one of the things I noticed, I may not be able to do all this stuff because there's usually not this many USB ports on one board. Usually it might be 2, sometimes 3 if you have a big board, but you know, right now these 2 wires would take up the 2 USB ports or pins on the motherboard. So, and also the Kraken over there, which is right over there, sitting amongst all the other PC clutter. That uses one too to be able to change the lighting of the CPU cooler, as well as monitor the fan speed and stuff. So we'll have to make some judgment calls. But other than that, we're ready to go. Hey, smoke, and we're back. So we just installed we installed the motherboard and the I/O shield. Just to go over some of the ports on the motherboard, I apologize for the light from the back door. We have your typical audio connectors, as well as a fiber optic. We have the Ethernet. I don't know why they still put a PS2 port on a computer, but whatever. These are the super speed, so these are USB 3.0, you can tell by the color. USB 2.0, and then you have the 10 gigabit super speed USB 3.1. I believe it's the 2nd generation of these. I believe the old ones were 5. But what you'll notice here is that, you know, red means that they're powered on all the time, I believe, even when the computer is in sleep. So these are the kind of things that if you have anything that's going to charge, you should want to keep those plugged into there. An HDMI and a, we have HDMI and I always forget what this thing's called, DisplayPort. And this is onboard video, so certainly not the actual one from the video card. Helps you out in a pinch, just in case your video card takes a crap. I just cleaned off the processor. So this is a Core i7 8700K. So this is Coffee Lake, I believe. And I put the RAM sticks in already. This is 2 G.SKILL Trident 8GB DDR4 DIMMs. And one thing you always should want to make sure when you do this is verify that none of your parts have plastic on them, because sometimes, you know, this heat shield here, this actually lights up. This is part of their Aura Sync stuff. This is lights inside the motherboard. Had a piece of plastic over it, and if you're not careful, I mean, the last thing you want is plastic in here with hot components. So always verify that you take all the plastic off of this stuff so you don't melt anything or catch something on fire. So it's in, looking good so far. I did start also the connection for the Kraken, AIO cooler. So that's coming together nicely as well. So we'll be installing that shortly. Okay, everybody, here's another update. I have installed the Kraken X62 water cooler, and as you see, kind of went in pretty nicely. Now, what I did was I actually changed the fans in the front to LED fans for some color, and I'm also using the NZXT hardware for RGB fans as well, because it uses the same smart software as the CPU cooler. So let me see, it was the AER RGB 140 fan, and it comes with actually a little kit that's about the size of two solid state drives on top of each other. So this will help uniformly connect the fans to the CPU cooler for similar color schemes and different animations. The unfortunate thing was that on the Thermaltake case, the radiator didn't slide all the way into the case. It was off by about 1 millimeter. So I actually had to use a Dremel tool, and if you're going to use a Dremel tool and create shards of metal, you should take your motherboard back out. So I had to take the motherboard back out and actually use a Dremel tool to widen this hole just about 1 millimeter. And then of course it fit perfectly fine. After that, we attach the fans to the front, and with good cable management technique, we'll let them hang out the back until we have to hook everything up at the end. I reinstalled the motherboard after it was done, and I just installed a Western Digital 1 terabyte SSD drive that is M.2 type. And also two 2 terabyte Seagate FireCuda drives. Where are they? Where's the bottom of the case? I'm getting a little bit confused. Actually, no, they're in here. It's hard to see because it is covered. But down in here, we have two 2 terabyte FireCuda drives. So they are hybrid drives, which basically takes the most utilized files and keeps them on solid state, while the less used files remain on the typical hard drive with a platter and whatnot. So, so far we've got about 50% done, so more to come. We will be adding this NZXT lighting kit, as well as some solid state drives, and connecting the power supply to the various components. Everybody, here is an update. We almost have the entire rig built. I'm just going to kind of go through this with you step by step. I apologize for the bad lighting. I'm using a flashlight to try to help illuminate the situation. Basically, the motherboard has an 8-pin power supply connector right there, which is right above the silver Strix heatsink, and it also has the power supply cables right here. The typical ATX power supply is an extra 8-pin, as I discussed. We got the NZXT water all-in-one CPU cooler installed. We zip tied the cooling tubes together, the coolant tubes. We've installed an Elgato 4K capture card, which shows up over here. And we also added this little box right here. Is the NZXT, the next all-in-one Hue case lighting module. Now, if you look down by my lighting, hard to tell, but there are 2 USB headers on this board. Well, the NZXT cooler uses one, the Hue NZXT case lighting module uses one, the front USB ports use one, and also, let me see, we have 1, 2, 3, and what's the other one? So this uses one, this uses one, this uses one, and what else? What else uses one? Oh yeah, the Corsair power supply for monitoring of the fan and temperature of the power supply. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 items which use USB headers, and there's only 2 USB header ports, or 2 actual USB headers on the motherboard itself. So I am actually purchasing the NZXT USB header duplicator through Amazon. It's about $24 purchase, and that will allow me to connect everything. So for right now, you'll see some spare wires laying right over here. These are going to be the case lighting for the front fans, which are attached to the radiator, as well as the power supply monitoring. So right now we have the front USB ports active, and we have the CPU cooler USB port active, but everything else is, the other 2 items are not active until that part comes in, but it should be enough to set up the PC. So basically, to go over this one more time, we have an Intel Coffee Lake 8700K processor underneath an NZXT Kraken, I believe it's the 62, which comes with 140 millimeter fans. On the Thermaltake case, I had to actually bend the opening slightly with a Dremel and a plier to get this to fit. It was only like a millimeter off. So I added the NZXT case lighting fans that came with a package that included the case lighting. So these 2 fans will be lit. The other things that will be lit, of course, is the NZXT CPU cooler, as well as the Elgato logo, as well as the Asus symbol down there. I don't know if you can see it. My light is kind of on the eye there. So this is the Aura package. So the Aura stuff on the Asus products and other compatible products light up, like the G.SKILL RAM sticks. They're Aura compatible as well. So these are Aura compatible with the motherboard, NZXT radiator, and of course the EVGA 1080 Ti. This is a hybrid, so this is a overclocked. This is the FTW3, so this is an overclocked card with a back radiator. So I think for the most part, the cable management is pretty decent. I'm certainly going to work on these cables under here once I get the other USB header duplicators that I need. But as of right now, I think we have everything plugged in and we are ready to start. It is all done. We currently have the NZXT Kraken cooling the CPU. We have the TridentZ G.SKILL LED memory modules that are in sync with the Aura sync, which if you look really close, you'll see it under there, the Asus ROG symbol, the eye. Elgato capture card has a light, and so does the EVGA hybrid FTW3 card. Radiator's working well. Temperatures are cool in the 20s. Back panel's on. And now we start mass install. So if you guys have any questions, certainly feel free to leave me a comment. I'll try to answer as best I can. I haven't built a PC in about 12, 13 years, so this was a lot of fun. A couple lessons learned. Put in the small little wires like USB header wires and the start and reset button pins before you start putting in a lot of big components, because then it's just, you're trying to stretch in between the different parts. If your fingers aren't small enough, you're not going to be able to get things in there, or if you don't have like a very long needle nose pliers to plug things in, that could be an issue. Anyway, Thermaltake case seems to be working very well. Certainly liking it. All USB ports are functional. All LEDs are functional, and right now we're just installing stuff. So thanks again for watching, and have a good one, guys.